Hello and welcome after the break. It is my greatest pleasure that in this second segment today, we are having Fran Brockstein, who is a renowned mediator in Texas and a family law attorney for many years. Fran, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And please tell our guests a few words about yourself.
I am the current president of the Texas Association of Mediators. I'm also on the board of my local bar association, the Highland Lakes Bar Association. I don't accept any new clients, but I do a lot of pro bono legal work. But mainly in the past 20 years, I have focused on mediation and trying to keep people out of court and in control of their own lives.
And she did it greatly, let me assure you. Fran is with us on the podcast at LMI Podcast, and she's having her own little place there, which is called Mediation Tips by Fran. But today, because it is a legal talk, we wanted to have Fran for a totally different mission. Fran will be telling us what to look for when hiring an attorney. Fran, why is it that you actually have knowledge on that, and why is it the topic you wanted to talk about to our viewers?
I am on the Supreme Court of Texas Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee. I am the chairperson for 10 counties in the Texas Hill Country, and I am constantly getting complaints and phone calls from people regarding what is a licensed attorney, how they find an attorney in Texas. And I do want to warn the public that unfortunately the scammers have now moved online. I just had a call this week from an attorney. Someone has started an Instagram account and is taking money from people via Cash App. And she has not been able to get Instagram to take it off or Cash App to close the account. And she only became aware when an elderly lady could not figure out how to send a Cash App. So I do want people to be aware that unfortunately, there are disbarred attorneys, there are paralegals, there are notaries in Texas that try to practice law without a license and unfortunately take thousands of dollars from innocent people. And then when they finally realize they've been scammed, they try to get the money back. And many times those people are in the dust. You cannot find them. So I'm a big advocate of people doing research before sending anyone money.
And having said that, so what is the first step that when you want to hire an attorney, how to make sure that the person you are approaching or who is approaching you is actually an attorney and is eligible to practice in the state of Texas?
Okay, for the state of Texas, the best place to start is at the State Bar of Texas website. It lists every attorney, licensed ones, disbarred attorneys, even deceased attorneys. And I will tell you that there is someone out there that is running a law office using a deceased attorney's name. And again, these people are really hard to trap. I also like the State Bar of Texas website because it lists attorneys that have been found guilty of grievances. And again, I personally would not want to hire someone with numerous grievances and complaints against them. And then I suggest Googling it. And sometimes bad reviews are actually the opposing side. I've had some bad reviews over the years. I've never taken them down because in every case, it was the opposing side that was mad that I had done a good job for my client. So I have left up negative reviews on purpose, but you have to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt. And then I also encourage people to talk to their friends and relatives and work colleagues about attorneys that they have used in the past.
And this is, of course, a fantastic source of recommendation, Fran. But when already in the contract relationship with an attorney and you start having doubts about it, what would you recommend? Or when you see that something, you're a client, something is not going well, something is just like seems not correct, what should be the steps that a client in a client attorney relationship should take?
Well, even in my own life, when I need to hire an attorney, I always interview them face to face. I want to make sure that we have a good working relationship and have good communication. There was once an attorney that I talked to for a free consult, and he whispered. I couldn't hear him. And so I did not use him because I could tell immediately there was going to be a problem with that he and I were never going to be able to communicate effectively. So again, if a person is unhappy initially, I would definitely sit down in person with the attorney and talk to them about my concerns. Because what an attorney sells is their expertise and their opinion. They cannot ever guarantee results. But especially in family law, it is a very unique field of practice. It's not based on the law very much. It's usually based on emotions and punishment. And so at some point, most family law cases settle before trial because of the cost of a trial. And I encourage people to trust their lawyer. And when I tell my clients, if I tell you I've done the best I can for you and I think you should take this deal, if you don't trust me, you need another lawyer.
And if there is this lack of trust, what is the path that the client should follow to be able to change the attorney? Or when there is a mistrust between the attorney and the client, what is the path that the attorney should follow?
Well, I have fired clients in the past for example, not following my advice, for screaming at my staff. And sometimes we're just not communicating effectively. And so attorney has to file a motion to withdraw. It has to go in Texas before the judge, and the judge will either sign it or make the attorney remain on the case, and vice versa. A client can fire an attorney. I usually recommend that they have a second attorney in the background that will just sign on as a substitute attorney rather than fire someone and then have to go hire someone. Most attorneys are very willing to work together. And I know personally, if another attorney wants to step into my shoes, I've always worked with it to make their job as easy as possible. The law community is small, and it's important that attorneys always take the high road, because in the future, that other attorney may be my opposing counsel. And I personally do not want a reputation for being known as difficult or impossible to work with.
And when you are saying that you do look into cases of some professional sort of misconduct of those people who are, okay, you can't say that because they're actually not attorneys. What is your authority to do that? Where are you located? What do you do to ensure that no unauthorized person practices law and deceives people in the state of Texas where you are in your area?
Well, actually, there are judges that will file complaints with the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee, and those are taken pretty seriously. There are other avenues. Believe it or not, some of the district attorneys will prosecute because it can be a criminal offense, especially taking money from people and then not providing services. And also the Office of the Texas Attorney General monitors these cases. There have been cases where people apply to become a licensed attorney, but because of the former complaints with the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee, their application to become a licensed attorney in Texas is very carefully scrutinized. The biggest problem, and I hear it a lot, is anyone that says they can do everything, I suggest run. It is impossible these days to be an expert in everything. I used to volunteer lawyers as a staff attorney for 5 years. I handled everything that came in the door. But when I went and opened up my own shingle, I focused on family law because the Texas legislature meets every 2 years and changes the law. So what was applicable when I first practiced law 33 years ago is a lot of those laws have drastically changed over the years.
I need to ask you that, although it will sound very, very creepy. So, is a client during the client attorney meeting eligible to ask, can you show me your license or can you show me your title?
Oh, yes, of course. And I actually have a bar. I have my original bar card because you have to pay in Texas if you need a new one. So I encourage people not to lose them. But I do have my um, certificate. I used to be on the wall of my office. And of course, I refer people to the State Bar of Texas and to Google me and see and make sure I am a licensed attorney and a mediator to practice. To practice in Texas. So it doesn't offend me at all. Now, I will warn you that some of these people that are doing this have fabulous websites. In fact, one guy has a YouTube video channel. And unfortunately, I know in Houston, Unauthorized Practice of Law, a judge issued a cease and desist for one gentleman. And he's back practicing. He's back at it again. He didn't stop. Unfortunately, some of these people move state to state. When they get caught in one state, they go to another state. And now, quite frankly, they could be anywhere in the world. And that is really scary. I wouldn't hire an attorney unless I sat down with them face to face and looked them in the eye and made sure I liked them, because you're going to be paying them money and you need to be able to trust the person. And sometimes it's just not a good match.
And when you already know that you don't like this very attorney and you are a client, what do you do?
Well, the first thing to do, I always say, is talk to the attorney and see if you can solve the problem. And if not, if you just don't, you two just are butting heads and not getting along, I do encourage people to talk to a second or third attorney and see if your expectations are realistic. Because unfortunately, many people call me and what they want and what Texas law says are two totally different things. For example, in Texas, judges expect parents to co-parent. I co-grandparent with my ex-husband, and you need to learn to be flexible. A lot of people want to micromanage the other parent. In Texas law, the Texas Family Code does not allow people to micromanage parenting.
So, knowing all those good tips, Fran, still one question there is still in my head. If you spot on your committee someone who is unauthorized and tries to practice law as an attorney, what measures do you take against these people?
Well, I've been on the committee now, I think about 7 years, and we have a process. So first, I write a letter to the person that complained and try to get additional information. Then I contact the person being complained about and talk. And then I also like to pick up the phone and talk to them because I'm old fashioned. And I still think that hearing someone's voice can be very impactful. I always attempt to resolve it and by saying, you know, first of all, I have to determine, is it the unauthorized practice of law? Sometimes it's not. And then if it is, how bad is it? If it's their first offense, then that's fine. Unfortunately, the repeat offenders, the ones that don't care, are the most difficult. And sometimes I have never done it, but we will file a lawsuit at the courthouse and have a judge tell the person to stop. Again, sometimes the district attorney or the office of the Texas Attorney General get involved too, because they're violating so many different laws. So I always try to reach, if all possible, a peaceful resolution. And if not, then it will escalate. Now, I will say we are all volunteers at the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee. We have one employee who is wonderful, but it is a very slow process. I'm a volunteer. I do this on the side. I do it because I am personally so offended when some of the horror stories I have heard, especially regarding immigrants in this country. There are a lot of unethical people that try to claim they can solve all their immigration problems. And they take thousands of dollars. And I have to tell you, it's very prevalent in Houston and San Antonio and El Paso, as well as the Valley. And it is heartbreaking to see these sweet, innocent people that have turned over anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000, and they're out of luck. And in many times, if the paperwork is done incorrectly, they are then removed from the United States.
Wow.
Where if they'd hired an attorney to begin with, they would still be here.
Okay, Fran, thank you so much. Thank you for pointing out that sometimes those mistakes or errors that attorneys do can be irreparable for the clients. This is why it is important to look for a good attorney with credentials, someone who is authorized. Thank you for this interview. Well, I'm sure we'll see you here again. And now, time for a little break. Thank you so much.